So let's start by talking about line. Like I said, line doesn't exist. There's no line around my hand. And so we use line in cartooning to describe form. And I think the best way to think about line is it's an ultimate simplification of light and shadow, the difference in value between two objects. So with that understanding, we can start to apply line if we know a little bit about art. First, let me run through these pens a little bit. So the first type of line, we're going to talk about three types of lines. The first type of line we're going to talk about would be a dead weight line. And I'm going to use this Micron 05. Like I said, the microns, aside from the 02, are all great for dead weight. So a dead weight line, very simply, is that it's even. It has no difference. I'll make it bolder so we can make sure we have a really good look at it. But a true dead weight line has no variation in it. Okay? It's an even thickness throughout the line, and it's called dead weight for a reason, because it is lifeless. And there is a time and place to use a dead weight, and I used to not use dead weight lines, but now with my brushwork I am using a lot of big, fat, bold, dead weight dry brush lines, which I love, but we'll get into that in my next video, which will be on rendering. So that's a dead weight line, and next we're going to get into a tapered line. So I'll stay on this 5 because the way these microns work is you can get tapered lines, and the 02 is the best one to do it with, but because this is bigger, I'm going to use this. And you can get a tapered line simply by building and playing with pressure. And when it comes to inking, line work is all about varying your pressure. So as I get to the thin part of the line, I'm letting up on the pressure. And that is basically a tapered line with a 05 micron. Let me show you the difference between that and an 02, because that's a little bit clumsy. But on an 02, you have a world of control. This guy gets so sharp. And that right there is the magic of the 02. And when we get into inking demonstration, I'm going to put that to full use. So that's a tapered line, that's a dead weight line. And then the third type of line is going to be a variable line. And that's basically a combination of the two, where you have an object or you have a line that comes in and out of thickness. So in different varieties. So let's start thin, and then we'll get a little thicker. And we'll come back to thin, and then we'll get a little bit thicker here and taper it off. This is a very patient technique. I guess all inking for me is kind of about patience and zen, and maybe that's what I like about inking. I do find it soothing. It is a little stressful when you're inking with a brush before you're really comfortable with it, but once you get comfortable with it, it's very natural. And it usually takes me maybe 3 minutes to warm up if I'm a little rusty. So once you got it, it's like riding a bike, it's in you. So this line right here is a variable line. So it flows in and out of thicknesses. Now, with the demonstration, we will talk about when and how to know when to make a line thick or thin. But if we go back to what I said initially, think about line in terms of light and shadow. So where would you have really thin lines? In areas where light is hitting your object. Where would you have really thick lines? in areas where light is not, so in the shadowed areas. So if you think about an object curving away from the light, the line will get thicker as we curve away. But I believe in showing, not telling, so we'll get there next. Welcome to Inkpulp Instruction, the art of learning art.